Hey, you. Come here. I have to tell you some insider information that not a lot of people know, okay? I've been doing the math, right? The HLTV Top 20 Awards are gonna come out any day now. They're gonna start pumping those suckers out. So I decided to look back at the 2024 HLTV Top 20 because in there they kind of list their reasoning as to why a lot of these players are ranked the way they are. And something that caught my eye was the awards category and how HLTV kind of ranks events. You know, we have a trillion billion events all year, right? This past year we had, Fissure Playgrounds, PGLs, ESL Pro Leagues. But what HLTV considers the top 4 elite of the elite events in the world is, of course, the 2 majors, IEM Katowice and IEM Cologne. So me being curious, I decided to take these 4 events into account only, ignore everything else that happened throughout the entirety of this year, because if these are the 4 most important events that we have, I just wanted to kind of, look through. I was curious to see how players did here when compared to the rest of the year, and I'm gonna be honest here, fellas, this shit was eye-opening. Now, obviously, this, of course, isn't all that matters, but it is kind of helpful in adding context to a lot of these players' years. We, of course, have Donk at the top with a 1.48 at these 4 events combined, then Zaiwu. But we also have some weird situations where we get Dumao as a top 3 player in the world. And listen, I'm not saying Dumao's a bad player, but Dumao's not going to be ranked probably in the top 20 at all this year if I had to guess. Plus, it's a little wonky with the amount of maps. Donk and Zaiwu both have 46 maps at these 4 events, and Dumao has 9. And of course, if you have less maps, it's easier to have more wacky numbers. But the main reason that I like to look at this and use this is just to kind of see, like, the players who did play a decent amount of maps here. Are you a big game player or a big game faller, right? Because if we have these 4 elite events, I want to see who rises to the occasion and who crumbles. And well, I mean, this gives us some more context. Kioske on Falcons was one of the better players at this event this year, as he was ranked in the top 5 along with Rob, so you would expect. PR from Gamer Legion is also in the top 10 here with a 1.22. He was phenomenal at a lot of these events. We also have people like Wonderful, Ema, and of course the Rookie of the Year in Molodoy. Barmlings, oh boy, do I have some news for you. Looking to upgrade your current inventory with instant trades, lower prices than Steam, all with a giant selection of over 1 million skins to choose from? Check out today's sponsor, CS Money. Along with their instant trade feature, if you just want to buy some new skins straight up, there are various deposit methods such as card, PayPal, and crypto. Looking to get out of the skins game completely? Don't worry, CS Money also offers an instant selling feature. Recently, they even increased the prices on user skins, meaning as of today, you can sell your skins at a better price and receive even more cash. With this cash, you can instantly turn around and buy more skins or cash this balance out to your bank. You can check them out today by clicking the link in the description. Thank you to CS Money for sponsoring, and back to the video. And something else I also wanted to look at is, listen, I'm not trying to be a hater or anything, right? But if we go to the bottom of these elite 4 events, the worst player is Cello, okay, who played on Furia and Imperial. Only 10 maps, so it is kind of strange. Right above Cello with a 0.8 rating is Stare, and I mean, I think Stare's a great player, okay? Then again, it is interesting to look at this stuff, because you can say, oh, like, Astralis was a disaster for this entire year. They were probably getting blown out in a lot of these matches, and I agree. But, he's on the same team as the other Astralis players, and he's the lowest ranked one by a fucking country mile, okay? Like, he's below Stown, he's below Yabby, well below Device, and I guess the minimum maps filter is 9, so I'm sure if I crank that down, we would get, Hooksy down there, even maybe magixx below him, but, it is still an interesting statistic to look at, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, enough random rambling. Basically, when I was scoping out these stats and looking at all of this, I noticed a couple things that didn't really add up in my brain. Like, for me, it just didn't make sense. And it really happened when I switched from the regular stats at these 4 events to the playoff stats. Because what better to judge players than, at the 4 biggest events of the year on stage in front of thousands of people, do they rise to the occasion and the pressure, or do they kind of crumble? So, looking at these playoff stats, some of this shit is so wild, I had to tweet about it, okay? Because I couldn't believe my eyes. For starters, at the big 4 events of 2025, we have Zwei and Shiro being ranked directly next to each other, and Zwei is ranked ahead of Shiro. I feel like Zwei is getting shit on by everyone, and I mean, like, kind of rightfully so. When you're on a team with Donk, there's, like, no wiggle room. You have to be elite right away. And if Donk isn't winning every single tournament just because of how good he is, you know, you're going to be scapegoated, right? But Zwei at the Big Four events this year on the same team as Shiro has a higher rating than Shiro. Like, what the fuck? It does make sense to a certain extent, right? Because when I was watching Shiro, and I guess just Spirit as a whole a lot of this year, I feel like when I watch Shiro, I still think Shiro is a great opera, okay? He should be ranked within the top 5 this year again, I would think. But my number one gripe with him is I feel like when Donk needed him most in these big tournament playoffs, he kind of was nowhere to be seen. And I mean, even at the major that Spirit won in Shanghai, he didn't play great in those finals. Like, he won them the game at the end with a 1v2. That's a phenomenal job. But for the most part, if there was not a magixx life game in that final, Spirit would have had no chance to win. And it would have been a shame because Donk was playing out of his goddamn mind. When we look at Shiro more closely in these events, when they lost to Vitality O2 at the Budapest major, he drops a 0.88 rating. You know, when you're supposed to be the second best player on the team, the biggest supporter to Donk, it's not a great look. We then go to the Cologne finals where Spirit did win 3-0 against Mouse. And here, luckily, like, they didn't really need Shiro to pop off. But in these finals, he was rated lower than Chopper was. He was the lowest rated player on the entire fucking team. We move on again when Spirit loses to Mouse at the Blast Austin Major 1-2. An incredibly close series, right? Map 1 goes into 75 overtime, Spirit wins. Then they lose Dust 2 9-13 and Nuke 10-13. This series absolutely could have gone either way. And the highest rated player in the entire thing is Donk with a 1.38. And the second worst rated player on Spirit, right above Chopper, is Shiro with a 0.86. We go even further, right, where Spirit lose to Vitality at IEM Kato. This wasn't super close, so it doesn't really matter. But once again, Shiro is the second worst ranked player on all of Spirit with a 0.7. So it has been a consistent trend this entire year. At the biggest events in the playoffs, when Donk needs his right-hand man the most in Shiro, he has been nowhere to be found. He's fallen off a cliff, to be honest with you. And so I don't want to go like too in depth with this, but I do think it is incredibly interesting to look at because like Zwei has a higher rating than him, right? Like what? Come on, man. But anyways, the point of this video isn't to look at, you know, Shiro and hate on Shiro, but I'm gonna keep yapping about stuff like this because it's so crazy to me how I personally like kind of knew that Shiro fell off, but I didn't realize it was this bad throughout a majority of this year. But there's more, okay? Now, I'm not going to yap about this one as much because it's not as crazy. But in the playoffs at these elite events, someone who is absolutely without a doubt going to be in the top 20 this year is Frozen from FaZe. He was one of the only reasons FaZe weren't literally a tier 2 team this year. It felt like he was consistently great and, you know, was one of the biggest driving forces in the team just being like at least half decent. In the top 4 events, he has a 1.11 rating in the playoffs. That's very good, okay? This is not a Frozen negative take. But the 2 players directly next to him that have the exact same rating is Techno from Mongols. And once again, we're talking about Spirit, magixx with a 1.11. And I mean, this to me isn't like I'm trying to blow anyone's mind, but it was very, very interesting because we all say magixx is, you know, a big game player. He steps up in big moments, mostly because of his Shanghai performance. At the events he did play this year with Spirit, he was one of the biggest supporters to Donk in these biggest moments when Shiro kind of fell off. And then we also have Techno from Mongols. He is the highest rated player from Mongols in these big 4 events playoffs. Behind him is Senzu with a 105, but like that Techno is their best player in these big moments. And I just think that's incredibly interesting because it's almost the complete reverse in any other normal situation. When we look at 2025 as a whole, Techno is the lowest rated player of the Mongols team with a 0.98 rating throughout 2025. So it's just very interesting to me that he is the one out of the entire Mongols team who steps up in these big moments in the playoffs. He's the Mongols big game player, okay? I just thought it was interesting that Techno and magixx had the same rating as Frozen in these moments. That's about it for this. Now, I know it took a bit to get here, but who this video is actually trying to be focused on is someone that I think might be the most underrated player of the entire year when looking at these playoff stats. You of course have Donk with a 1.39, ZywOo right behind him, and then Rops. But someone who is tied with Rops at a 1.27 rating in the Big Four event playoffs is magixx from Na'Vi. And the main reason I wanted to talk about this is because I don't think people are necessarily saying magixx is bad, and I absolutely think Molodoi should win Rookie of the Year. It's not even a question in my mind. He won 4 tournaments. He was the MVP of 2. He just overall has a better rating than magixx this year. But like in these Big Four event playoffs, magixx is literally tied for the 3rd best player in the entire world, behind Donk and ZywOo. When we're talking about rookie discussions, right, I feel like all that I hear is Molodoi, which deserved. Kioske, you know, he was supposed to be the next Donk. I get it. And Tanir, who had a great year on Heroic and is now on Spirit. Like, these are the main 3 names that come up when we're talking about rookies this year. And I feel like magixx just is not getting the recognition that he deserves. And once again, I'm not trying to shit on Molodoi here because I do think Molodoi should win Rookie of the Year. But in these Elite Four event playoffs, magixx, like I said, is a 1.27. And Molodoi, who was on Furia, that were ranked like the #1 team in the world for a little bit. In these 4 Elite event playoffs, he has a 0.94. And I do think for rookies, that is more realistic, right? If you are a rookie coming in these big moments, you're going to get a little nervous, okay? You're not going to play up to what you normally would. So I think Molodoi's drop off like is understandable. But you know, when you compare Molodoi to magixx, what magixx did this year was fucking incredible. And it's not like magixx was playing 1 or 2 maps and he just farmed that. He has 11 maps, which the most that anyone has this year is 23, and that's of course the Vitality players just because they were winning everything for a while. But like, it's not like 11 is a super small sample size. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's interesting how magixx isn't really being talked about that much. And I mean, I can keep rambling about this forever, bro. I love just looking at stats, turning my brain off, and just saying, these numbers are crazy, man. Wow. But like, I feel like a lot of the players from Na'Vi, just because like they weren't 2024 Na'Vi who were winning a lot of events, a lot of the Na'Vi players are kind of underrated, like along with magixx. If we just look at overall ratings at these 4 elite events, the highest rated AWPer is of course ZywOo, and then the 2nd best AWPer in the entire world, if we're just looking at these 4 events in a vacuum, is Wonderful, man. Wonderful had a great year in 2025. I feel like he gets a lot of slack because when Na'Vi was winning all of these events, he did kind of struggle in like super big moments. You know, he would be the first one to make a mistake sometimes. There just had to be some sort of scapegoat for Na'Vi, you know, because they weren't winning everything. It turned out to be him, man. Some of it was deserved, of course, but at least at the Big Four events in 2025, he was a monster this year. Literally ranked the 2nd highest rated AWPer in the world, like I said. So he had a great year. But yeah, I just thought I'd yap about this for a little bit. I don't think magixx is going to land in the top 20 this year. Maybe he does. I think if anyone from Na'Vi was going to, it would be, you know, the other 3 players on the team. We'll have to see what happens. I feel like magixx is going to be from like the 20 to 30 range if I had to guess, but maybe I'm wrong. He, you know, in 2025, he does have a 108 against top 20 teams. That's got to be, let me check actually. Let me see how good that is. So, I mean, a 108 isn't terrible. That puts him in like around the 25 to 30-ish range in the world. So he probably does slightly just miss out on the top 20 if I had to guess. But I think he is being incredibly underrated, and I think he's a great piece for this Na'Vi team overall. Wonderful too, man. I got a lot of great things to say about these Na'Vi players, to be honest with you. But yeah, I guess that's it for me. What did we learn today? magixx, I would say, is probably underrated. Wonderful, maybe even also underrated. Maybe Shiro, I don't want to say Shiro's overrated because I do think Shiro's very good still, but he's got to step it up in these big moments. That's all that I'll say. And along with that, maybe Techno and magixx are underrated. I don't know. A lot of things can be taken from this. You know, it's very easy to just look at numbers, you know, and say, wow. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I clicked a bunch of buttons, put a bunch of filters on, and I said, wow. But that's it. I just wanted to, you know, yap about this for a little bit. Because I thought it was interesting, man. I thought it was cool. But yeah, if you liked the video, liking, subscribing, notificationing me. And I mean, man, what a time to be alive right now. Post major, there's so much shit to talk about. End of the year, we got roster mania going on. End of the year awards. It's a phenomenal time to be alive. But I'll see you guys later.